Hey guys! Today I want to talk about a really cool system they have here in Japan called総合健康診断, which means comprehensive health exam, or it's also known as Ningen Dock. Ningen means human, dock, or like dock, the English word dock, literally like docking a ship into a space station, or like a ship into a harbor or something. I don't know why. It's like, that's the meaning they mean. They mean like docking a human being. I don't really know what that has to do with like a health exam. Technically, there may be a little bit of a difference between the two terms, Ningen Doku and comprehensive health exam. Usually they just mean Ningen Doku includes more tests than the comprehensive health exam. But anyway, I didn't learn about this until a few years ago when Simon and Martina moved here, and Martina went through it after she moved here, and she told me all about it. Even though I'm married to June, you would expect, because I'm married to a Japanese person, I would know all this stuff about Japan, but sometimes he just doesn't, like something is so normal to him, he doesn't know that it's different in my country and that it's something I would be interested in learning about, so he won't like think to tell me. So I didn't know until Martina moved here and she went through it and she told me all about it. But when you turn 30, you're supposed to start doing these comprehensive medical exams that are meant to check and make sure you don't have any, medical issues that are starting so that you can treat them before they become problems. It's meant to be like a preventative health checkup here. Ju was saying if you work for a company here, a lot of them will have you do one of these comprehensive medical exams every single year, which...
Once a year, it's determined by law.
Determined by law, okay. I ended up doing a lot of options, but I guess there's a basic set that isn't quite as extensive as what I went through. Like I did things including CT scans. I don't think most people do a CT scan every single year. I think probably like a lot of that was extra. Anyway, a few months after I turned 30 here in Japan, our city hall, I guess our city, sent me a letter in the mail that said, "Congratulations, you're 30, it's time to do your comprehensive medical exam." And one thing cool about my city was they offer a lottery system for people who turn 30, and they give you like a date and a time where you can start signing up at midnight, and it's either first come first serve, or if too many people sign up, then I think it becomes a lottery and you can get your entire exam for only $80, which is pretty cheap. And I ended up winning, or I was one of the first come first serve, and so I was able to get my entire test for $80, but I ended up choosing a lot of the extra options like the CT scan, and was the ultrasound extra?
I think a lot of the expensive ones are all optional.
I chose all the expensive extra ones.
You ended up paying as much as you have to pay for Ningen Dock anyway.
For a normal one. But it's because I did the extra ones. So it ended up costing like maybe about $450, which for those of you living in countries with free healthcare, that might seem like a lot. But for me coming from America, the amount of tests I did, it is insane that I was able to get that for $450.
Well, those people pay a lot of tax.
Well, so does America. Apparently America actually spends more on healthcare than other countries, and we still don't have as good of healthcare. So, well. Anyway, I wrote down exactly what I went through on that day, but instead of watching me just like read through my notes, I figure we can like, I don't know, film our cats while I talk about this process, so at least you have something fun to look at instead of my face reading my notes on my phone.
I can keep staring at you.
Aw, June. Okay, but I would rather look at cats. I think it would give people the option. They would choose the cats. So let's bring our cats back in, and then I'll start talking about the process. And then after that, after I explain how my day went, I have my result booklet here. They sent me a whole booklet of results, which I can show you. It's pretty cool because they give you a report card for your body. You get like grades from A to D on how healthy the different parts of your body are, which is like, I guess, kind of depressing if you think about it. Like you feel like you're failing at your health on certain parts if you get bad grades. I got a few pretty bad grades, but we'll go over that at the end of this video.
In Japan, you know, like kids get their own report card, but parents also get their own report card. That's what we say. It's really scary.
Oh, you graduated from school, but you still have to keep getting report cards.
And
But
then
now it's like serious.
it's still serious.
Now it's like extra serious.
You can just skip your homework, but thus, if you skip your homework, you'll be in trouble.
But I think this is probably one of the reasons like Japanese people have such a long life expectancy is because there's so much preventative healthcare. Like going through this every year when you turn 30, it really helps you figure out before something turns into a serious issue.
Don't forget that you did a lot of extra stuff though.
I did do a lot of extra stuff.
Also, I have a question.
Yeah.
You said you don't understand, like, which part was confusing about the origin of Ningen Dock? Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Docking a human?
No, not docking. You know the dock, right? It's
Yeah.
where a ship goes in and all the workers check up to see if there's anything wrong with the ship.
I was thinking about a verb. Okay, I guess
It's
you
a
could do
noun.
like a noun.
Yeah, it's a
The
noun.
Ningen Dock, like the human dock.
Yeah, so you do all kind of check to make sure the ship
Okay.
sails well.
All right, so I know where that comes from now because hospitals have an entire ward or an entire floor set up just for this comprehensive health exam. So you go do this in a big hospital, but they have an entire floor that's set up, and like every single room on that floor is for a different part of the exam, and they all have their own special doctors. So I guess that's like, you know, the entire floor is supposed to be the dock, and then the humans just go there and you go from one room to another and get in and out of all of your tests. But anyway, this is a very long intro. Let's get into it.
7 minutes of Rachel. We had enough of it.
Enough. Get her out of here. Where's the cats? So after I won the lottery thing, we had to call a hospital. It didn't really matter which one, as long as they did the Ningen Dock at their hospital and make an appointment. And then that hospital sent me, they asked like which tests I wanted to do. And this is a document which highlights their recommended tests, like the tests their doctors recommend. Like this one is for brain, to make sure you don't have a brain tumor. It's recommended, but also I'm young, so they didn't recommend this one specifically for me. This was a CT for your chest and lungs, which I did do.
I'm not a doctor, so I don't like fully understand exactly what every single word means, but this is the name and this is what covers. So like if you go through, you can tell which covers what.
And it shows you the normal price. So there's some things I got for almost free because I won the $80, and then there are some that I just paid to have extra. I don't know what the PSA test is. What kind of cancer is this for? To check.
今調べてる。
Oh, prostate cancer. Well, obviously I did not do prostate exam. That's why I don't know this one. Okay, this one was checking for breast cancer. This one's checking for uterine cancer. I did both of these. Yeah. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about exactly what I did that day and how the process went. But we'll film cats instead of just staring at my face the whole time. So, my appointment was at 8:45 a.m. I wasn't allowed to eat after 9 p.m. the night before because I chose to do a stomach test, like where they put the camera down into your stomach. Was that extra? I think that was an extra test. And because of that, I was not allowed to eat after 9 p.m. the night before, which I didn't have a problem with, but I also wasn't allowed to drink after midnight, which really sucked. They told me I would probably finish around noon and be able to drink around then. What happens when you first get there is you go to a designated floor, and after they call your, like you go to the reception, you get a number just to wait, because you have to wait in line just to talk to the reception desk. So we went to the reception desk, got a number, and then when they called my name, they took my documents and the samples that I had. So before I even went there, they gave me they sent a whole big packet of documents telling me exactly what tests I was going to go through and how those tests would work and what I needed to do to prepare. And some of those were samples. So I had to bring a urine sample and a fecal sample, a stool sample with me from the past day. So I brought both of those and I gave them to the reception desk. And then they gave me a name tag with all of the tests that I would do written on the back of the tag. and then the tag had a barcode, the name tag. So every single time I went to a new doctor, they asked me my name, they verified who I was and what I was doing, and then they scanned my name tag as well. So like it all was worked into their computer system in a very organized manner. One thing that was kind of unique, like I wasn't really expecting, was they had an entire floor set up for this, and I assume because this is something that people have to do every year, it's a big moneymaker for hospitals, so they're incentivized to provide you a very nice experience. So I almost felt like it was a spa experience. The whole floor was designed very lushly. Like the elevator had all of these like beautiful motifs in it. It was completely colored in like maroon and gold, and like the waiting rooms were beautiful. So it was a really unique experience. And then they always had a guide to take you exactly where you were going, including riding in the elevator with you if you had to go to a different floor. Like they acted almost like a hotel bellhop or something. Like they would call the elevator for you and then usher you inside, and then get inside and like push the floor and then take you where you were going. If you had to go to a different floor, she would give you like a robe so you would be warm. It was really unique. So the very first thing I did was we went to the gynecology floor, where June had to sit over in a boys' corner, and then I went to like a separate part for the waiting room to go inside an examination room. Behind us, there was an entire wall that was like floor-to-ceiling glass, and a huge traditional Japanese garden on the other side. It was really beautiful. I guess like this is it can be a very stressful test for women. Doing your pap smears and everything for gynecology. So it was nice to have like a really beautiful, relaxing atmosphere. This was also the same floor I would later do my stomach camera on, which was a miserable experience. So I guess they also want to try to relax you before that. So inside the examination room, the first thing they did was ask me my name and scan my barcode on my name tag. I had to change my bottom half into a towel skirt thing, and then I sat in a chair that automatically lifted me into the air with my like bottom half underneath the curtain, so I couldn't even see the people who were examining me, and they couldn't see me either. Although I did see them when I first went into the room, so I knew who was examining me. And then it was a very quick and painless process. Immediately after my pap smear, the guide was waiting for me and took me back down to the main floor, where a new guide took me to a locker room to change. And it was like a fitting room. There were individual stalls. It was actually more like a room. It was an individual room with a door. And in each room, there were 4 lockers. And so you would like key code in your own chosen code and then put all of your clothes in there. And then you would change into this like special, it was not a hospital gown, it was more like a spa robe, I feel. And then you would wait in a waiting room with a whole bunch of other people, like maybe 30 or 40 other people, all dressed in these spa robes, sitting in luxurious chairs around luxurious tables. There were like newspapers, there were TVs, there were like, it was all set up differently. There were like some tables that were low coffee tables, there was a large TV with like potted plants around it, and like, it was just it was organized very nicely. It did not feel like you were in a hospital. And then, so all of us were in robes because all of us were doing these tests, except for June, who was there to help me translate in case I needed it. So there were all of us in our fancy like spa robes, and then June in his normal people clothes sitting there with me for everything. Thank you, June, for coming with me that day.
You're welcome.
My Japanese medical terminology is not great, although it's a little bit better after this experience. So the second thing they did was they called me into another small room where a doctor looked at my eyes. She felt around my neck and then used like a stethoscope and pressed into my stomach in a couple of spots. And then I went back to the waiting room with the fancy chairs. And then I went to another side room where they did a quick x-ray of my chest from the front and side. It took maybe 2 minutes, and then I was back in the waiting room again. And then I was called behind the TV screen area where I was weighed and my height measured. And then I did an eye test where I had to move a joystick in the direction that these letter C's were facing. And then I had my blood pressure taken. After this, the guide handed me 2 laminated papers that were hooked together in a ring explaining how the stomach camera procedure was going to go. It was like for having a tube inserted into your nose, but I was supposed to have it inserted through my mouth because I have like a lot of inflammation in my sinus cavity. But I read it anyway, even though it didn't. That was the wrong one. They were supposed to give me the one for the mouth. I was really worried about that procedure. I'm probably throughout the day, that was the thing I was worried about the most. They did say they would give you a numbing spray, but the packet also said, like, if the procedure hurts, just take some deep breaths. And, like, I think because of my anxiety, I have a very low pain tolerance. And doctors in Japan are, like, constantly surprised that their procedures hurt me. And I've cried at doctors so many times here in Japan because, like, the tests that they didn't think would hurt me quite a bit. So I worked myself into, like, a really nervous wreck before the stomach camera. But that was at the very end of the day. So I wasn't even there yet. By 10 a.m., I went to have a quick EKG. And by the time I was out in the waiting room again, it was only like 10:06. It all went pretty quickly. The next room was an eye exam where they blew air into my eyes. And when she told me they were going to blow air into my eyes, I couldn't help but start squinting and bracing myself a little bit. And then as I did that, I realized what I was doing was like exactly what Haku does when he gets on something and we have the water bottle and we like are threatening him with the water bottle to get off. And like he doesn't get off the counter, he'll just stand there and like start squinting and bracing himself. And I realized that was exactly what I was doing and it made me start laughing. And so while I was having this eye test, I was laughing and I'm pretty sure like I just looked like a complete idiot. But yeah, that was a thing that happened. And then they took pictures with super bright flashes inside my eyes. The next test I did was the CT scan. She put a large, thick, plaid, like, robe on me. It was, like, a very, very luxurious robe because I had to go down to a different floor that was pretty cold. I had a CT scan earlier this year, so at this exact same hospital, actually. So I knew what to expect this time. The first time I did it, they did a CT scan of my sinus the first time. And it was a really weird experience because I ended up smelling something that was like burning, and I know everything was okay, but it really made you feel like they were frying your brain. And so it was kind of a nervous thing the first time I did it because they didn't tell me there was a possibility of me smelling and like tasting something kind of burning. But the second time I didn't have that experience at all. The CT scan I did this time was for my chest, and it took a lot longer than the one that was for my sinus. They went like up and down on my body quite a few times. And then I got back to the waiting room. At this point, it was 11 a.m. And to me, I feel like these tests were all very quick, but to them, I was running really, really behind because they were so busy. And so she ended up taking me to a different floor to get my ultrasound so that I could have it done more quickly. So I had to get another like robe to go to another floor that was colder. And they did an ultrasound of my stomach, my neck, and my breasts. She used heated gel, which was nice, so it wasn't like a cold, uncomfortable experience at all. That test was pretty thorough and lengthy. I ended up getting back to the waiting room around 11:30. And then next in the same room, in a curtained corner, I had blood drawn while laying down. Normally they don't ask you to lay down, but I get dizzy when I see blood or have blood drawn, so I usually ask, or I usually tell them I get dizzy sometimes. I've passed out once giving blood, so I always try to be careful. So I usually lay down in Japan and I get a little lightheaded, but it's okay. And then the last thing I did at noon was go back up to the top floor for the stomach camera, which I was extremely worried about. First they had me sit in a chair facing like a very high and beautiful view of the city, and then they were like, she gave me a bunch of numbing sprays down my throat, which made it kind of difficult to swallow. I was given some white liquid to drink before that, which was supposed to like make it so it was easier to see the inside of my esophagus and my stomach and my duodenum. Shortly after that, they moved me to an adjacent room where I laid down on my side. They put a blood pressure checker on my arm and like a pulse checker on my finger, and told me to relax my throat, stomach, and shoulder as much as possible so that it would be easier for the camera to go down. They moved my hair out of the way and told me not to swallow at all. And like if any liquid was coming out of my mouth, just let it fall out of my mouth. They put like a little cup below my mouth to catch anything. And you're just supposed to like let everything come out. So as soon as they did the camera, it was pretty thick. It was probably maybe 1.5 centimeters, 2 centimeters thick. It was a pretty wide camera. And as soon as they put it in my mouth, I started gagging. And then as soon as it touched the back of my throat and the entire way down into my stomach, my body was trying to throw it up like extremely hard. I think they didn't expect my reaction to be quite that bad, but I have a very, very strong gag reflex. I knew this was going to be an issue. It was pretty terrible. I could feel it like inside my stomach once it reached that far down. It felt like a little bit of cramping. It was kind of weird. I felt like if I looked down and saw my stomach, I would be able to see it like poking through my skin, because it felt like it was like just poking me around. I'm sure it was completely normal and totally fine, but that's the way it felt. It was really weird. I don't think I blinked for the entire process. I feel like, you know, in those horror movies when something terrible happens to someone and they just stand there wide-eyed and they're like open mouth and then they like slowly die. I feel like that's what my face looked like. I didn't blink at all. My mouth was open. I was trying to throw up the whole time. I was crying. There was like spit falling out of my mouth. Everyone in the room was like speaking loudly at me, telling me to do different things, like breathe slowly, relax, breathe out, you can breathe, relax your stomach muscles, breathe slowly, you can breathe. Like every single person was telling me something different, and then June was translating it all into English for me too. It was like a pretty stressful experience. Did not like it. Once the camera got all the way down in my stomach, I was able to stop trying to throw up a little bit, but then as soon as she started pulling the camera out, like it came back. After the camera was out, she told me to still keep spitting and not swallow, I think because of the numbing cream, just in case anything else, or like in case there was any blood. Like they have the ability to take a biopsy in case they see something, which some people bleed a little bit from. I did not have anything biopsied in my stomach. She told me it would probably be like about an hour before the anesthetic wore off, but it was wearing off for me by the time that we left the hospital. One thing I'm not sure if you guys know, but redheads need a lot more anesthesia than normal people. It's just part of one of the genes we have. Like anesthesia doesn't take as well for us and we get rid of it faster. So I got rid of the anesthesia pretty quickly afterward, a lot sooner than they were expecting me to. And this usually happens to me in Japan. It's one of the reasons I end up like crying at the dentist all the time. It's because they never give me enough anesthesia if I have a cavity, and then I end up being able to feel the test. So we went back to the reception floor after that. We got instruction from the receptionist about when to expect test results and what they would say. They would grade each section from A to D. where A was healthy and D meant I needed further testing. Okay, this is not for the receptionist. She said that when we paid, we'd schedule a checkup visit, which would have to be over a month later because we were going to go to America for all December. I changed back into my clothes and paid the bill, made my follow-up appointment, and then we went to the first floor to pick up some free bread and drink for me to have after my hour of waiting was up. My throat felt pretty uncomfortable, and occasionally I still felt like I was being stabbed in the stomach or the back of my throat with the camera again. When I swallowed, it felt very sore. Even though I could tell the anesthetic was already gone, I was in a bit of pain, and I chose to wait the remaining half an hour before eating or drinking anyway. By the time I was done with my test, it was 1 p.m., which was a lot later than I thought I would be done. Everyone else was gone. Some of the workers were already cleaning up and closing down the area. I was the last person there. But all in all, other than the stomach test, everything went pretty well for me. I thought it was very organized and very quick. Even though it took me longer than most people, I still felt like it was a really quick experience. In America, if you go to the hospital, it's totally normal for you to end up waiting maybe 2 or 3 hours, sometimes even more, to see a doctor. And I don't think I waited more than 20 minutes for any single test there. So to me, it felt like it moved pretty quickly. But anyway, that was my day of testing, my initial day of testing. They told me some things I could expect, and if I had certain symptoms to call the doctor and go back right away. I didn't have any of those symptoms, but one thing I did get was a few hours later that evening, my entire face and neck broke out into broken capillaries. What's the word again? I forget the term for it, but I popped capillaries pretty easily, and I've gotten them before, but never quite as bad as this. I was really freaked out when I first saw it because literally my entire face was covered in red dots. I felt like I was dying, although it was just the popped capillaries, and of course it went away in a couple days. I don't have any of them remaining, but that was really freaky, and that was all because of the stomach camera that my body was trying to throw up really, really desperately. Turns out you can get them on your face and neck if you're straining to throw up. Which, I don't know, is weird. I've never had that happen before. I got the results while we were in America. It came in a big packet. We actually had it sent to June's mom's house because we weren't going to be in Japan, and so she took photos of the results to send to us. So this is the packet I received. My overall grade is D2, which is not good. We ended up coming back from Japan early just because some of the results were a little concerning and we needed to get further testing. But before I go over that, let me just explain a little bit. This is Solgo Hante, means comprehensive result. My results were D2. This says I need a detailed examination, so I just need more examination. These are what the letters mean. A means ijo nashi. It's within, your results are within normal range. B is mild abnormality, but it's something that won't cause issues in everyday life. C is you need a follow-up observation within 1 year, go back and have it checked again. D1 means treatment required. It says please get treatment and manage the issue at a hospital or something. And then D2 says detailed examination required. You need a more detailed exam. Get your butt to a doctor, basically. So mine was hey, go to the doctor. You need more tests. So these are my results at a glance, but they have a page for every single thing. So I'm just going to go through them one by one. On this page, they have the general findings from here and just in general. Some of them are not included in this. The stars are my D2 issues, things I need to have checked out. So from So for my breast ultrasound and chest CT scan, they found a breast lump, and the second sentence is just telling you which department or which doctor you should go see to have this checked out again. So I have to go to the doctor and have a breast lump looked at. This is, I had blood in my poop, which I was not surprised by. I've been to a doctor for this many times before. I have pretty bad IBS. I have a family member with like a severe IBD. I've never been diagnosed specifically with an IBD, but usually when I go to the doctor about my issues, they're just like, well, watch your diet. Like, if you're having issues, just try to eat something different. And I'm like, okay, but like maybe you should do a test or something. So anyway, I need to go see a doctor for my blood in my stool. And maybe this time they'll actually do a further test to see if I have anything like my other family members or if mine is still just regular IBS. One of my D2s is that my platelet count is high. I've had a bunch of blood tests over the past few years, and I keep them all in like a packet together so I can see how my results change each time. And my platelet count is always usually a little bit high, so I'm not particularly worried about that. But I mean, we'll go see the doctor about it anyway. And then this is increased intraocular pressure, which I didn't even know was a thing. So apparently you can have like increased eye pressure, and if you have that for an extended period of time, it can lead to glaucoma. And so last year I did one of those DNA tests, and the only thing it said I was at an increased risk for based on my DNA was age-related macular degeneration. So I don't know if that's related at all. So, like, I didn't even know this was a test you usually do, like, having your eye pressure checked. So I'm really, really grateful for this system in Japan, because I never would have done this in America. Like, I didn't even know some of these things are things you're supposed to do. So if there is an issue with any of these, I can figure it out now while I'm 30 and have them, like, treated ahead of time before they become a major issue. So, like, if there is an issue with my eye pressure that could one day lead to me losing my eyesight, if I know now before I have an issue, maybe I can stop that from happening at all. I just think it's really, really amazing. I'm so grateful to have done this test and have, like, to know about this stuff ahead of time. Okay. So here also it says that I have a cyst on my thyroid, but they don't think it's a problem at this time. So I don't know, that's kind of weird to me. I feel like maybe that's normal thyroid cyst. I don't know anything about it. It sounds like kind of crappy to me, but I have had hypothyroidism in the past, which is counterintuitive. It's the one that makes it easier for you to gain weight. But when I had it, my doctor thought it was because of a vitamin D deficiency, because this was at a time where I was like training in the Air Force in a windowless bunker, and I would wake up at like 4:30 a.m. before the sun came up, and then I would go home at like 10 p.m. after the sun set, so I didn't see sunlight at all for quite a while. So surprise, vitamin D deficiency. And my doctor said that probably affected my thyroid, because like apparently some of that stuff just is kind of connected. My mom has had hypothyroidism as well. So maybe this is just like something people in my family have an issue with every now and then. But this also here, the bottom one here, it says my BMI is too low. So a little bit too low. But also, my BMI has always been a little low. I've always been a little underweight, even for the Air Force. I'm not sure if you know, but like you have physical fitness requirements in the military, but they also have like waist requirements and weight requirements. And my weight was always a little bit lower than the requirements. But once I got onto active duty, like I was seen by a doctor and he gave me a waiver for my weight, and I always met all of the physical fitness requirements. So these are just things that are flagged by a computer. It does not necessarily take into account your medical history or like whether these are fine for you. So literally all of these things could be fine for me. These aren't all saying like these are massive issues. These are just things that are automatically flagged based on standard results. This one I didn't read yet. This one is like my calcium score in my coronary artery calcium score. It says they saw absolutely nothing. So like my arteries are nice and clear, and I have a low risk of heart disease, which is great. Woohoo! That's nice to know. I'm glad to know I have a low risk of heart disease right now. Would have sucked if that was higher because I'm only 30. Okay, this was the general body stuff. My BMI is 18.1. Their normal range is 18.5 to 24.9. This has my height, my weight, and then this is like standard weight, I guess, for my height. I guess it's like 10 kilograms more than I am. I calculated this and it's 50 kilograms is about 110 pounds. 60 kilograms is about 134 pounds. And I've never been even close to that before. The most I've ever weighed is 123, which was right after I got out of my month-long training with the Air Force, where they force-fed you multiple times a day. You're like, you have to eat or you'll get in trouble. It doesn't matter like if you want to eat or not, you have to shove it down your mouth, and then you did a whole bunch of physical exercise. So after that, I was 123 pounds, but normally, this is generally my average weight is about 50. It's pretty difficult for me to gain weight. Like where I am right now is usually where I come back to. So I've been 120 and I've been 100 pounds, both of which did not feel right for me. And I ended up coming back to about 50. A year ago here in Japan, I was about 100, I think, which was way, way, way too low. I did not feel comfortable being that low, and I worked really hard to make sure I ate 3 times a day every single day, and I was trying to force myself to eat bigger meals so I could get back up to 110, and I finally did, and this is where I am right now. What I want to do is I want to gain more muscle again, like I had when I was in the Air Force, but this is the same weight I was when I was in the Air Force. It's just instead of muscle right now, I have fat because I wasn't exercising. So I would like to return to my Air Force days of having muscle instead of a little bit of fat, which is where I am right now, but it was still the same weight no matter what. Okay. These are my eye results. Here's my increased intraocular pressure. It's like very slightly. 21 and higher is increased. I have like 22 and 23. Here's some nice detailed pictures of the inside of my eyes. This is my result for fundus. I had to translate this. I didn't know what fundus was. Fundus is the inside of your eye. I guess that's okay. They didn't quite do as intensive of an eye exam as I had done earlier this year. At the very beginning of the year, I did an eye exam when I was trying to get glasses. And they said I had a bumpy retina inside one of my eyes. I never went and had that checked up on again, but I guess I'll get some further testing, so maybe I'll let them know about that and see what goes on. This box is all just explaining medical terms that could show up in here in your results, but I don't have any. This is my blood pressure. My blood pressure is pretty good. This is like the first time they did your blood pressure, and this is the second time. And these are what they want it to be. This was my EKG or ECG. I don't know what the difference is. That stuff. And then this is my heart rate. Heart rate was 70. Here's my heart test. This was my chest exam. I got a D on this as well, but not from my x-ray. My x-ray is fine. This is my x-ray. This is a sexy x-ray. Check this out. Is that weird? I think my x-ray is sexy. Look at, check out them clavicles. It's nice. It's a nice x-ray. I like it. But this was my D. This was the CT scan. And that's a lump inside my boob. This is my left breast. So I guess this is like looking from beneath my body. Yeah, lumpy thing that I have to get. This is why I came back to America early, because it's probably nothing. It's probably not a big issue. In my family, there's no history of breast cancer at all, and I'm still pretty young, but you never know. I think it's better to have stuff checked out sooner rather than later, even if it's likely to be okay. So we came back early from America so I could have my breast lump looked at. These are my lungs. I did not do this test. That's what the star means. So this is my throat ultrasound. I have a 2 millimeter cyst on my thyroid. That's that little thingy right there. But again, they said they didn't think this was an issue. Ultrasound of my stomach. No issues. Here's my stomach. This is a CT of my stomach. Again, no issues. This is my digestive system. I have a B from the stomach camera. There was nothing wrong with my stomach, but inside, this is like my esophagus, where my esophagus meets my stomach. They pointed out this before, I have a little spot from acid reflux, which I didn't even know I get. So I didn't know that was a thing. Again, it's not, they said it's B, so it's not something that's likely to impact my life. But I guess I'll try to not get acid reflux. D, this was my colon. This is where I had some blood. That's the positive. Had some blood in my stool. And then these are my blood test results. So again, I got a D because my platelet count is a little high. So I guess platelet count's supposed to be between 13 and 34.9, and mine is 45.5. But I have 3 years of blood tests for my platelet counts, which I looked at, and it's always been between 41 and like a little over 50. So I don't know if that's an issue. I think I'm on birth control, so I feel like it's probably a little bit higher because of that. I've been on birth control since I was like 15. So 15 years of birth control. I assume that's why my platelet count's a little bit high, but you never know. This says my cholesterol. They didn't tell me anything about this, but it's 203, whereas the highest they want is 199. That's probably not an issue at all, but I don't want like to be on the upper range of cholesterol. I gotta get that down. I'm gonna try to adjust my diet. Actually, I just need to start exercising again. It's because I haven't been exercising this year, like at all. So we'll see how this is a year from now after we move and I start exercising, getting active again. These are just terms for your blood test. This is for breast cancer, where I got a D2. I don't really understand how this works because the top says at location E, at a size of 13 millimeters, there's a lump. And this says at location AB at 13 millimeters, there's a cyst. So here's E, here's AB. Are these different things? Do I have a lump and a cyst? But it's like the same exact size, so I feel like it would be the same thing, but they're in different locations. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see at the doctor. And then this is for uterine cancer. I have an A. I didn't have anything. That is my health packet. Okay, so that was a very long video, but I hope this was informative. I basically walked you through exactly how this process went. I have to go back and do a checkup because of my 4D issues. They'll probably be fine, but I always think it's better to be safe than sorry, so we came back from America early. I didn't get to see my family this Christmas, Just sad. I always miss seeing my family. Christmas is a big time for my family. Sorry, buddy. I bother dog. But always better to have a checkup. So I will do a video again when I get my results. And I hope this was helpful and interesting. See you guys later. Bye.